Hey guys, over the years Blizzard has cut a lot of content such as zones, battleground features and much more, and what I'm gonna show you in this video is my top 10 cut content, which will mainly consist of zones. Now after you're done watching the video, I would love to know what your top 10 looks like. At number 10 we have Heroes Through Time, which was a map that showed up in the game files during the Warlords of Draenor alpha. Personally, I think it was most likely planned to be a battleground of some sort, because if you look at the map, it has an alliance and a horde fortress on each side of the island, or perhaps it was just an early concept of how Azsharas would look like. Now the main reason why it's on number 10 is because I don't know what it was supposed to be, because Blizzard, well, they never mentioned it, but I still feel like it deserves a spot on the list because of its mystery. At number 9 we have the scrapped Kalidar battleground. You might already know this, but originally Blizzard intended to use the name Kalidar for the island where Teldrassil is located. Now the Kalidar battleground has a MOBA-like structure like Dota or League of Legends, because the map has 3 lanes and 2 main fortresses, similar to how MOBA maps are designed, and it also has different structures spread around the map. However, there are still a lot of empty spaces because it got cut before they could finish it. The reason why I chose this one to be on the list is because of how unique the map is, and to be completely honest with you, I would have loved to see how a MOBA-like battleground would have worked out in World of Warcraft. At number 8 we have the Defense of the Alehouse, which was supposed to be another MOBA style battleground in Mist of Pandaria. The goal of the battleground was to defeat the brewmaster of the opposing faction, and throughout the map you would be able to fight various bosses that would provide you with different buffs. It's a pretty cool concept, and like I mentioned with the Kalidar battleground, I would have loved to see how a MOBA-like map would have worked out in the game. Still, the reason why this battleground is a bit higher up on the list is because it seems more finished compared to the previous map. At number 7 we have the 2 capital cities that we were promised would be part of the Warlords of Draenor expansion. The Bladespire Citadel was supposed to be the capital city for the Horde, and the Temple of Karabor was supposed to be the capital city for the Alliance. Now, before they completely scrapped the idea of having capital cities, they managed to finish the main Horde hub, and that's why you can still see 2 innkeepers and some random NPCs when traveling to Frostfire Ridge. However, Blizzard never got as far with the Alliance city, which is why the textures inside of the building are still white, and instead of completing it, they just decided to block it off with a door. I think the reason why they scrapped the whole idea is because they wanted Stormshield to be the city of the expansion. So if they decided to include the 2 capital cities, we would have had the garrisons, the capital cities and Stormshield as our main hubs, which probably would have been too much. However, it's still sad that they decided to cut the idea, because the Alliance capital city is what Black Temple was before it got corrupted by the Fel. Now the reason why I put this one higher up on the list is because Warlords of Draenor had a lot of good ideas that we were promised during the BlizzCon, but were later cut because they rushed the expansion way too much. It would have been great to see how the inside of that temple would have looked like if they managed to finish it, so players in the future could go back and see what Black Temple would have looked like in the past. At number 6 we have what was supposed to be the garrisons during Warlords of Draenor. Back at BlizzCon 2013 we were told that we would be able to choose our own locations for our garrisons, but this idea was later scrapped. The reason why this made it a bit higher up on the list is because this was what our version of player housing was supposed to be, and the idea itself was great. It was great because we were promised that we would be able to customize it a lot more than we actually could. We were promised that we would be able to showcase our trophies and choose our own locations where we would place our garrisons. So the idea was if you wanted to be in Gorgron, you would be able to do so, which is a lot better than what we ended up getting. I know that Warlords of Draenor was a big disappointment for a lot of people, which is sad since many of us, including some of my friends who don't even play on a regular basis, were hyped about it. It could have ended up being a great expansion if they hadn't decided to rush it out. At number 5 we have the Abyssal Mole, which was supposed to be a raid during the Cataclysm expansion. It was actually supposed to be located in the depths of Azsharas, so if you ever wondered why we never got a real ending to the story of Neptulon, who you might have seen if you played through the storyline with Azsharas, well, it's because we were supposed to get the rest of the story in the raid. Sadly though, it was never released because they underestimated how much work would be needed to make the Firelands, so we never really got the real ending to the story. Now, even though a lot of people hated the underwater content, including myself, the reason why I chose this one as my number 5 is due to the missing story that could have been told about Neptulon, and if it was as good of a fight as Ragnaros, which is the other elemental lord, it could have been an amazing raid with a lot of potential. At number 4 we have Azsharas Crater, which is another cut battleground that we were supposed to get in Warcraft Vanilla and which was supposed to be located in Azshara. Now the reason why I chose this one to be this high up on the list is because if you didn't know, we didn't have a lot of content in Azshara before Cataclysm. In fact, we had so little content that I can barely remember anything besides one of the world bosses. So it would have been great to have at least some content. I mean, it's such a beautiful zone and it had a lot of potential, and the same goes for the battleground with its huge map, and to be honest, it kinda reminds me of an early Warfront, so hopefully we'll be able to play it one day in the future. At number 3 we have the Dragon Isles, which was initially planned to be a level 65 to 70 raid dungeon during the early developments of the game. Initially, Blizzard planned the max level to be level 70 before they decided against it and made the max level 60 as we know it. Now the reason why this isle is top 3 on my list is because it was supposed to be one of the old god temples at the end of the Dragon Isles, much like AQ is in Silithus. When looking at what we have, it looks like we would have entered the place through some tunnels where the temple would have been located. Now the location for the Dragon Isles are still unknown, however, if we look at an early map of the game, we can see the text Dragon Isles placed north of Scarlet Monastery, so this could potentially have been where it was supposed to be. And as you can see, they never textured the place, but the concept art for the race exterior looks really good, and it could have been great to have had an additional raid during the base game. At number 2 we have Azjol-nerub, which was supposed to be a huge underground leveling zone during the Wrath of the Lich King. Sadly it got scrapped at some point during the early developments of the expansion. Now the reason why I chose this zone to be this high up on the list is because we only saw a fraction of how beautiful the zone could have been, and Wrath of the Lich King was one of the best expansions in my opinion, so it's hard to imagine how much better it could have been if we have gotten an entire new underground zone, and that's the reason why it deserves to be this high up on the list. Now if you ever wondered why the buildings look very similar to Naxxramas, well, it's because the Scourge stole the Nerubians' architecture, so you can imagine how awesome the zone could have looked like, but sadly when the zone got scrapped we only got the 2 dungeons, Azjol-nerub and Ahn'kahet the Old Kingdom. So my number 1 cut content is the Emerald Dream, and the reason why I chose this one is because it was actually supposed to be an entire zone back in vanilla. When looking at the map files that were in the game at some point, the zone was actually supposed to be quite big. Now the Emerald Dream was originally created by Freya to serve as an underlying blueprint for Azeroth, and when the Titans had shaped Azeroth, they sent Ysera into an external trance and charged her with watching over all of Azeroth from within the dream. As a result, the green dragons guard every portal into the dream, and you might have seen these portals battles throughout Azeroth guarded by the original world bosses in vanilla. Now this is one of the most important pieces of history in the game, which is why it deserves a spot as the #1 COD content. Now it is sad that we never got the opportunity to visit the real Emerald Dream, but we did see the Emerald Nightmare and the Emerald Dreamway in Legion, but it wasn't what people had hoped for, and sadly I doubt we'll ever see the Emerald Dream as an expansion, but we can always hope. So that was my top 10 COD content. If you enjoyed the video, then make sure to give it a like and consider subscribing to the channel as well, and as always, remember to stay positive no matter what. See you next time.